Tennessee's at-home learning series for literacy. Today's lesson is for all of our 7th graders out there, though all children are welcome to tune in. This lesson is the 4th in our series. My name is Mrs. Alley, and I'm a 7th grade teacher in Tennessee schools. I'm so excited to be your teacher for this lesson. Welcome to my virtual classroom. Today, we will be learning about early American civilizations. Before we get started, to participate fully in our lesson today, you will need something to write with and a surface to write on, paper, and the 3-column chart from our previous lessons. If you didn't see our previous lessons, you can find it on the Tennessee Department of Education website at www.tn.gov/education. You can still tune in to today's lesson if you haven't seen any of our others. But it might be more fun if you first go back and watch our other lessons, since we'll be talking about things we learned previously. Let's get started. Today's objective in today's lesson, we will be able to understand how the Mayan civilization was organized and how that organization supported the development of the Maya Golden Age throughout a very large, diverse region. Let's review. Today we are continuing our focus on the Mayan civilization. Let's review what we wrote on our 3-column chart in the last lesson about the Mayan. On your chart, you should have Golden Age, wealth and prosperity. 5 million people inhabited this area. They developed a system of city-states that were governed by one powerful lord. They believed in the influence of gods and goddesses. They built temples and offered sacrifices. The well of sacrifice was home to the gods. And Maya believed their sacrifices to the gods would bring them rain. Today, we will continue reading the Golden Age of the Maya and learn more about how the Maya civilization was organized. Remember, the big question we want to answer is, how did Maya society adapt and thrive in such a large and diverse region? Now I will read the next section in our text to you. Please listen carefully as I read and think about the answer to our big question. Feeding city-states. Wetlands, mountains, and rainforests, Maya farmers worked hard to supply food to the city-states. Rainfall and soil quality varied throughout Mesoamerica. The Maya found clever ways to meet the challenges of their diverse landscapes. What does this mean that the soil quality varied throughout Mesoamerica? So were all of the Maya farmers able to do the same thing to be successful? When the author states, the Maya found clever ways to meet the challenges of their diverse landscapes, what does this tell us? Let's check our answers. What does this mean that soil quality varied throughout Mesoamerica? The soil was different in different parts of Mesoamerica. So were all of the Maya farmers able to do the same things to be successful? No. When the author states the Maya found clever ways to meet the challenges of their diverse landscapes, what does this tell us? Because the landscapes were diverse or different, each farmer had to come up with different ways to overcome challenges and be successful. Let's read further to see what kinds of challenges the farmers faced and what clever things they did to overcome them. Some lowland areas received heavy rains from May through December, followed by drought from January through April. Because of this inconsistent rainfall, the Maya developed ways of redirecting and reusing rainwater. They created canals in the lowlands. They built raised earth platforms above the canals and created wetlands. Aquatic plants helped keep the water clean and provided shade for the fish in the canals. The fish, in turn, provided both food and fertilizer for the fields. Let's answer some questions. What was one challenge some Maya farmers had to overcome? Why would this pose a problem for farmers? What did they do to overcome this challenge? Remember to use the text when answering these questions. Let's check our answers. What was one challenge some Maya farmers had to overcome? The rainfall was inconsistent. Sometimes they had heavy rains, while other times they had droughts. Why would this pose a problem for farmers? Too much or too little water would make it hard for their crops to grow. Take a moment to add this challenge to your chart in the Maya column. What did they do to overcome this challenge? They found ways to redirect and reuse rainwater and created canals in the lowlands. Let's add these as solutions to this challenge. Great. In highland areas, the Maya cut terraces into the slopes of mountains. They practiced multi-cropping on this flat land, planting and harvesting the land multiple times throughout the year. Their crops included beans, tomatoes, squash, chili peppers, and pumpkins. Maize or corn was the main food throughout Mesoamerica. I think we can all agree it could be challenging to farm in mountain areas. Let's add this to our chart as another challenge they faced. What did the Maya do? Remember to refer to the text to answer your question. The Maya cut terraces or flat areas into the slopes of the mountains. This made it much easier to plant crops. Let's add this to our chart to capture how they overcame the challenge of farming in highland areas. Let's continue. In highland areas, the Maya cut terraces into the slopes of mountains. They practiced multi-cropping on this flat land, planting and harvesting the land multiple times throughout the year. Their crops included beans, tomatoes, squash, chili peppers, and pumpkins. Maize or corn was the main food throughout Mesoamerica. They also did something else called multi-cropping. What did this allow them to do? Let's reread this section so you can listen for the answer to this. In highland areas, Maya cut terraces into the slopes of mountains. They practiced multi-cropping on this flat land, planting and harvesting the land multiple times throughout the year. Their crops included beans, tomatoes, squash, chili peppers, and pumpkins. Maize or corn was the main food throughout Mesoamerica. They practiced multi-cropping on this flat land, planting and harvesting the land multiple times throughout the year. This allowed them to plant multiple things throughout the year. They did not just plant one crop for the year and then wait for the next year to replant. Once they harvested one crop, they planted something else. This allowed them to increase the amount of food they could grow in these areas. In forested areas, the Maya used a technique known as slash and burn. They slashed or cut down trees and then burned the area. Then they planted new crops. Ashes left from the fire added nutrients to the soil. After several years, the crops used up the nutrients in the soil. The Maya then repeated the process in another area. What do the crops do to the nutrients in the soil over time? Why would this create a challenge for farmers? What was their solution to this challenge? How did this help solve their issue? What happened after they planted in that area for several years? Let's review our answers. What do the crops do to the nutrients in the soil over time? After several years, the crops used up nutrients in the soil. Why would this create a challenge for farmers? After a while, the crops would have difficulty growing in the soil if the nutrients were depleted. What was their solution to this challenge? They used a method known as slash and burn. They cut down the trees in an area and burned them. How did this help solve their issue? The ashes added nutrients to the soil. What happened after they planted in that area for several years? The nutrients would be depleted, so they would move on to another area and repeat the slash and burn method. Let's take a moment to add additional things Maya farmers did to overcome living in diverse landscapes to our three-column chart under Maya. First, we will add slash and burn method to add nutrients to the soil. Next, let's add multi-cropping. Excellent. Let's continue reading. The Maya also gathered tree crops. Fruit trees thrived in the rainforest. The Maya enjoyed the bountiful fruit of the breadnut tree. Similar to apricots in appearance, breadnut fruit has a highly nutritious seed. The Maya ate these seeds or ground them into flour. The Maya also used many rainforest plants for medicine. Some Maya hunted game in the forests, including deer, rabbits, and other small mammals. They raised turkeys and dogs for food. They raised stingless bees for honey, which they used to sweeten foods and drinks. In coastal communities, the Maya ate fish and turtle as well. How else did the Maya use the diverse land to survive and thrive? Let's check our answer. How else did the Maya use the diverse land to survive and thrive? They used plants in the rainforest for medicine, hunted game, raised turkeys and dogs for food, and raised bees for honey. Let's take a moment to add this to our three-column chart under Maya. Ways they used land. One, they used plants for medicine. Two, they hunted game. Three, they raised animals for food. And four, they raised bees for honey. Our chart sure is filling up with lots of wonderful information about the Mayan civilization. Let's continue reading. Maya were not the first civilization to live in Mesoamerica. The way they lived was often very similar to the way others in the area lived. The Maya did not invent the pyramid, nor were they the first to practice writing. Instead, the Maya often improved upon practices originally borrowed from other cultures. Were the Maya the first civilization? Did they invent the pyramid, or were they the first to practice writing? What did they do that is important to note? Let's check our answers. Were the Maya the first civilization? No, they were not. Did they invent the pyramid, or were they the first to practice writing? No, they were not the first to do these things. What did they do that is important to know? They improved upon practices they borrowed from other cultures. Let's take a moment to add this important idea to your chart. Let's add to our chart that the Maya improved upon practices borrowed from other cultures. Let's continue. An important ball game. The Maya played a ball game called Aquatic that had religious significance. Nearly every Maya city had at least one ball court. Enclosed by parallel walls, the rectangular courts varied in size. Some were nearly as large as a modern-day football field. The game of Aquatic was played with a solid rubber ball that weighed as much as 8 pounds. Players kept the ball in the air with their knees, hips, shoulders, and forearms. Thick, heavy padding protected them in this fast-paced game. Rules varied among the city-states. At Chichen Itza's court, the object was to pass the ball through the stone hoops. In some city-states, players were sacrificed to the gods at the end of the game. It's possible that the game symbolized the passage of the sun across the sky. This was believed to be an important daily task performed by the gods. Isn't it interesting that the Maya played ball like we do? Aquatic. Think about how this is similar to and different from the way we play football today. What did the Maya believe the game symbolized? What does the text say that could happen to some of the players at the end of the game? Let's check our answers. What did the Maya believe the game symbolized? They believed the game symbolized the passage of the sun across the sky. What does the text say that could happen to some of the players at the end of the game? This is kind of hard to believe, but they sometimes were sacrificed to the gods. That's definitely a tradition that belongs in the past. Life in a royal court. This mural was painted on a temple wall at Bonapac in southern Mexico. It shows that members of the king's royal court lived lives of luxury. Rulers grew wealthy from trade among city-states. The mural depicts how members of the royal court lived and dressed. Loose-fitting clothing was typical of all social classes. Noble women wore beads, pendants, and earrings made of precious jade. Noble men covered their heads with feathered headdresses made of quetzal plumes. Only the rich and powerful wore fancy clothes and jewels. Based on the text, what aspects of nobles' dress could be described as fancy? Let's check our answer. What aspects of the noble's dress could be described as fancy? Some of the answers I thought of were beads, pendants, and earrings, feathered headdresses, and the inclusion of precious jade and quetzal plumes. Did you think of any I left out? Let's move on to our guided practice. We're going to be doing some word work. In this chapter, you read, some Maya hunted game in the forests, including deer, rabbits, and other small mammals. Say the word game with me. Game. In this sentence, game means animals that are hunted. The word game is also used in another way in this chapter. The text says, the Maya played a ball game called Aquatic that had religious significance. In this sentence, game means an activity done for pleasure or sport. The word game is a noun with multiple meanings. Meaning 1, game, animals that are hunted. Meaning 2, game, an activity done for pleasure or sport. I'm going to read several sentences. Listen to the context or the text surrounding the word game in the sentence for clues as to which meaning is being used. To prepare, grab a sheet of paper and number it 1 through 6. When you think a sentence is an example of meaning number 1, animals that are hunted, write 1. When you think a sentence is an example of meaning number 2, an activity done for pleasure or sport, write 2. Sentence 1. Aquatic is a game the Maya played. This game would be an activity done for pleasure, so the answer would be 2. Sentence 2. Fish and turtles were common game the coastal Maya enjoyed. The game in this sentence would be referring to the fish and turtles that could be hunted by the Maya. This would match with meaning number 1. Sentence 3. Soccer is a popular game around the world. Soccer would match with meaning number 2, an activity done for pleasure. Sentence 4. Deer and rabbits are game on many of the world's continents. The kind of game this sentence is referring to would be the animals, deer and rabbits, that are hunted. So the answer for this one is 1. Sentence 5. Mice and birds are game that foxes eat. This would also refer to meaning number 1, the mice and birds, game, animals that are hunted. Sentence 6. Chess is a type of game played with a board. In this sentence, chess is an activity done for pleasure. So the answer to number 6 is 2. Let's move on to discussing today's independent practice. So today we wanted to understand how the Maya civilization was organized and how that organization supported the development of the Maya Golden Age throughout a very large, diverse region. Our big question was, how did Maya society adapt and thrive in such a large and diverse region? On a piece of paper, write the following 3 questions. I want you to answer them and be ready to review your answer when we meet for lesson 5. Here are the questions. Number 1, how did geography affect the ways Maya grew and hunted for food? Question 2, because we just learned about a number of clever ways that the Maya people met the challenges of their diverse landscapes in order to provide food for themselves, which method or solution do you think was the most clever? Question 3. What evidence supports the title of this chapter, Golden Age of the Maya? Make sure you have all 3 questions copied so you can answer them and be ready for lesson 5. Before you begin answering, give yourself some time to think about all the things you've learned today and from previous lessons. We'll take just a few more moments to make sure we have all 3 questions copied. I really enjoyed learning about the Maya civilization with you today. Thank you for inviting me into your home. I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson in Tennessee's Home Learning Series. See you next time.